and local level. And of course, that can only mean one thing: fodder for the Hot or Not column. Russ Moore is in studio here today to talk about who's up and who's down. Oh, boom. Now, I would like to start off, as I'm swallowing a mint, today's segment here by putting Russ Moore on the hot list because he was here last week before the Kentucky Derby.
Holla.
Saying that Always Dreaming was going to be the pony.
Guaranteed it.
Did you guarantee it?
Against your better wishes.
Oh, didn't we have to talk about insurance? I was
yes.
like, no, you can't make any insurance.
That's right, yes.
And you made yourself a couple bucks?
A few dollars, yes.
A few dollars up
yes.
the track.
I'll bring in
Dreaming.
the coffee next week.
Bring in the coffee?
Bring in the coffees, yes. With the winnings.
Okay, sounds good. Always Dreaming. You called it here first.
Gluten-free coffee.
Most coffee is, but thanks.
Oh, I didn't know. I would get it, though. If there was a such thing, I would get gluten-free coffee.
So, Russ, you would not put yourself on it, but you love to put sports things on. We've got
course.
the Celtics tonight. Are they hot?
Yes, they're still hot. Even though they lost 2 out of 3 games since we last spoke, they're in position to win tonight and move on to take on the mighty Cavaliers. But first, they got to take care of business and beat the Wizards on the road, which they haven't done yet. But I think they're going to do it tonight. That's not a guarantee, just kind of a hunch. So
yeah, so they definitely had trouble on the road, but they look so good at the Garden. Can they bring that game
yes.
on the road? Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
yes.
So we'll see if they can continue this hot streak. Won the last one, Celtics tonight. But let's circle back to a little more local politics here.
Let's do it.
You have Gary Sass on the hot list.
Yeah, I would like to give a shout out to Gary Sass for kind of giving us some real talk in Go Local this week as a mindsetter. He pointed out that it's really not fair for the governor to blame, it was in an article, it's not fair for the governor to blame Donald Trump for Rhode Island's lagging revenues. Instead, it's probably more likely that we're not managing our budget as correctly or as efficiently as we should be doing, and that's why we're lagging in revenue. So I give former Director of Administration and former head of RIPAC Expenditure, Rhode Island Public Expenditure Council, a lot of credit for having the guts to stand up and say that.
And no, he specifically said, and he said also the revenue numbers, not specifically the governor had said, this was looking to the Trump administration. He said these revenue numbers that had come out this week don't align with the governor's comeback talk. Now, there had been a lot of talk about the economy turning around, things looking better. But to be close to $100 million off, that's a pretty big number.
Sure, absolutely. It's a big number. Again, the budget is almost $9 billion, so $100 million is a big number. But I don't think the sky is falling, but I do think it is disconcerting to see that we're off. Because in the last few years, we had been dealing with more revenue than we were expecting,
surpluses.
Not less.
Now, that's something that Go Local was first to report. We had spoken with former Governor Lincoln Chafee, asked him what he thought about these revenue numbers.
And he did not hold back.
No, he did not. He came back right away and said, these are the surpluses that I've had under my administration. And he did go after the governor for looking for that free college tuition proposal. Again, if we're looking at some pretty hard choices that need to be made, he had some pretty pointed words for the governor.
It does look like former governor, senator, mayor, councilman. It does seem like Lincoln Chafee's running for governor. It really does.
We shall see. Don't forget.
And if he does announce, he's going to announce first in front of you. He's going to tell you on Go Local Live.
He promised when he was in studio here. We'll send him the clip to remind him of that.
I'm sure you will.
Yes, we will. So let's go. Let's talk some more politics. David Siegel, former Providence City Councilman, former state rep, had him here in studio, working on a number of national issues, but he did point out this race to the bottom. Again,
another person who stepped forward and pointed out that it's not a good economic idea to try to give the sweetest deal to the companies that come along. Instead, like former state representative and Councilman Siegel pointed out, it resembles a race to the bottom. It's a bidding war between Connecticut, Rhode Island, Delaware, all these states trying to give the sweetest deal so that those companies will locate here, but that really doesn't do much for the community. A big reason to have economic development is to get tax revenue and obviously to get jobs, but it's also to get tax revenue. If we're giving them money, that's the opposite of getting tax revenue. So I think former Councilman and State Representative Siegel was spot on when he said that, and I have a lot of respect for David because he's a progressive, but he's always been intellectually honest, and he's been really consistent in his position. So I like to give him a shout out for that on the hot list.
Yes, it was an interesting conversation because he pointed out an example that was taking place down in Washington, talking about the look for a new football stadium between Washington, D.C., between Virginia and Maryland. And he talked about some officials sort of getting together from those 3 areas and said, hey, what if we all came together and said, we're not going to start competing off of each other. He said, why can't New England do the same thing?
A little collusion.
A little collusion.
Legal collusion.
Legal collusion.
Sure, it's a great idea.
He proposed it saying, if Connecticut and Mass and Rhode Island said, hey, look, we're going to say, no more. I mean, it was just something that he put on the table, but something that's been discussed before. It was an interesting vantage point to hear from him on the hot list.
Absolutely.
Also on the hot list, Carolyn Rafalian.
Sure. I put Carolyn Rafalian on the hot list because she was honored at a gala in New York City for the charity work that she's done to try to de-stress people's lives, and especially among at-risk populations. So I know she's really big on that, and she's done a lot for charity, and I have a lot of respect for her, the CEO, founder of Alex and Ani. So I threw her on the hot list because of all the good charity work she's done.
Now, this was, again, with the David Lynch Foundation, and we had put something up on it as well. Now, yesterday in studio, we had Alex and Ani's lawyer, Mark Garagos, in, who was talking about it. Now, he was in New York to see this. She was an esteemed company. She was with Robin Roberts. She was with Giselle. Does she even she even need a last name? And he said, he's probably a little biased.
It's kind of like Madonna, right? Just one name.
Giselle, everyone knows her. And, as I said, Mark's probably a little biased, but he said that she was kind of the rock star of a group of rock star women who were working to, again, bring this to kids. Sure. So put her on the hot list for that.
Sure.
Yeah, you did?
And like you said, he probably is a little biased because I think she signs his paycheck. So, but again, I'm not saying he was wrong.
Maybe a little biased.
Sure.
Let's talk about some more hot items here in the state. National Association of Letter Carriers, their food drive.
Sure. Today, if it might not be too late, there might still be a few mail delivery carriers out there delivering the mail. If you could pick up some healthy, non-perishable items, put them in a bag and leave them out there, the letter carriers will pick them up and they'll bring them to the Rhode Island Food Bank, and that food will be dispersed to the folks who need it. And this is taking place nationwide today. I think it's an awesome initiative that they embark on every single year for the past 25 years. So I want to give them some love and a shout out too. I've always had a great respect for mail carriers because they get the job done in sweltering heat and snow and hail and rain. So
they're out and about.
Got to show some love.
Show some love. We love our mail carrier here. They keep the wheels turning.
That's right.
Okay, so let's hit a couple more things on the hot list before we go to the not. You had Majority Leader Joe Shekarchi for his car seat legislation.
Yeah, it was a nice piece of legislation that makes sure that children under the weight of 30 pounds and under the age of 2 are seated in rear-facing car seats because studies have shown that they save lives, those type of car seats. In other words, if children were in that car seat, as opposed to a forward-facing seat, they would survive in a rear-facing seat. So it does seem like a common-sense piece of legislation that the House of Representatives passed. Leader Shekarchi sponsored it, so I wanted to show him a little love and put him on the hot list for that.
He is on the hot list for this. I know you had to put him on, the Yankees. I mean, I get it that they're hot, but...
They're hot. They're red hot. They weren't supposed to be good, but they're good and they're winning. And Sunday they're going to honor Derek Jeter for everything he did. And I mean, come on, even if we hate the Yankees, we still have to love Derek Jeter, right?
Derek Jeter's kind of hard to hate.
He's a tough guy to hate. Such a competitor, classy guy, never did anything wrong.
There's a lot to hate about A-Rod, in my opinion. Not a lot to hate about Derek Jeter.
You could almost hate him because he's too perfect, I guess. Right? So yeah, so the Yankees got it going on right now. So we're gonna put them on the hot list because they are hot. It's an opinion piece, but it's based in fact.
Yeah, there are some factual basis points to it.
That's right. So hot.
We'll put the Yankees on there, and of course, with Sunday, we got to put moms on the hot list.
Of course. I mean, come on. It's motherhood, right? Motherhood and apple pie. Put the moms on the hot list. It's Mother's Day. Thank your mom for all she's done for you or will do in the future. So I'll be doing that. So
we do put the moms on the hot list, and it is a day of celebration. But you do want to take the time and think of those who've lost their moms.
Good point.
And mothers who've lost children. It's not always
tough.
the
it's
great.
Always,
so
yeah.
If there are folks who are moms in need or folks who've lost their moms, make sure you reach out to those folks as well. Because
really good point, Kate. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah. So we
very thoughtful of you.
Thank our moms who are here. But for those who it might be a little difficult, reach out and call because we all do know women in our lives who that might be, or children. Or anyone who might be impacted. So keep that in mind.
Such a good point, Kate. Good looking out.
Okay, so that kind of wraps up the hot list. Let's move to the not hot list as I'm looking at my notes here. Someone hit me on Facebook. They're like, you're always looking at your phone. I'm like, I got notes on here.
Of course.
I'm like, I can only think of so much. And so we've got the hot or not list. Council President Luis Aponte.
Yeah, it wasn't a good week for the council president. He was indicted on charges of, it was an embezzlement charge and spending his his campaign account for personal usage, and I guess that's a big no-no in Rhode Island state law. So right now they're talking about appointing a new council president. I'm not sure if that's going to work or where that's going to go.
We just put up today, this
Sure.
afternoon, the council did point out, now this is his leadership team
Yes.
that's calling for a no confidence vote. When your leadership team calls for a no confidence vote, it's a very difficult situation to be in. That meeting is on Monday at 5. Of course, Go Local will be there. I'll hop right from my position here in the studio, head over there.
All right.
And following that. But not only did you have Council President Aponte, I mean, you had the city council
Well, you
because
just
of
mentioned it. You
Kevin
just said
Jackson.
his leadership team, right? So you've got Council President Aponte, who's been indicted. And again, I will say this, he's innocent until proven guilty. I think that should be pointed out. Same thing applies to Majority Leader Jackson, former Majority Leader Jackson. He was the majority leader before he was indicted for similar charges about a year or so ago. So I feel like it's a stain on the whole city council because a majority of the city council elected these people. So I think it's kind of a dark week for them as well. I don't want to come down too hard on them because I know there are so many good council people we have in Providence, but it wasn't a good look for them. I think the whole body kind of took a hit this week. I don't think that's too controversial to say.
Tough week for the
Yes.
council. One of the things we hit on the hot side of things, but of course the revenue shortfall not being on the not hot list.
Sure. You just spoke a second about 3 states or 3 cities getting together and saying, why don't we collude together and not give a new football stadium for Washington? I think that the baseball stadium in Rhode Island, the lights kind of dimmed out on that because with this revenue shortfall, that's $100 million less to give away to a place or to an entity like the Pawtucket Red Sox. This could obviously further endanger the governor's college tuition program, and it could even delay or hamper the effort to phase out the car tax. Now, I think that's the least likely to be affected by this because Speaker Mattiello's in control, and he controls the votes, and he can override vetoes. He's very strong. So I think we're still going to see the car tax phase out, but I think some of these other things that our leaders were hoping for, they're that much harder to do, so not hot.
No, it was interesting, again, that the governor had pointed to the Trump administration sort of in her opening remark about the revenue shortfall. One of the interesting things, I mean, we saw in Massachusetts, other states faced revenue shortfalls.
Connecticut?
So, Rhode Island's not the only one. I don't know if others were pointing to a new presidential administration as being the reason behind
I'm sure
it.
the governor of Connecticut would, since he's a Democrat. In Massachusetts, I'm not sure that a Republican governor is going to be as quick to jump on that rationale.
So we'll see how that plays out moving forward. We had a piece on that in Go Local today. If you hadn't checked it out, be sure to do so.
Yes.
A couple more things on the not hot list. Walter Bronhard on the east side.
Sure. Look, this is a gentleman who owns about $50 million in property on the east side, or in Providence, particularly on the east side. He's a force in Providence because he's such a big developer, but he's gotten a lot of flack from community groups and tenants over the way he treats his properties and the way he's not responsive to concerns. So because of those concerns, I decided to put him on the not hot list, even though his bank account is hot.
So we'll see moving forward, again, and as you just pointed out, neighborhood groups looking at the condition of properties. We'll see moving forward. I know they are planning on taking it up. Does own a lot of property, but we'll see moving forward how sort of the relationship goes between a big landlord and against some other residents who might have some concerns.
Sure.
Of course, you had Donald Trump for the Comey
Yeah, and
decision.
then the way it's gotten worse and worse. I mean, he's got his press office saying some things. He's got his vice president contradicting the press office. He's contradicting the vice president and the press office. So the fact that last fall he thought FBI Director Comey was great because he reopened the Clinton investigation, he had praised him, and now here we are in the spring, and he fired him for the way he handled the Clinton investigation. Not a good look. Not a good look, President
And then
Trump.
the tweet that he had that he said, better not have any of those conversations.
Oh
taken.
God, it's so abrasive and it's so adversarial. It's. I guess that's our president. That's Donald Trump, but it's not hot.
Did you see the cover of the New Yorker that came out today with
No,
the
I
cartoon?
missed it.
They're on a plane. Donald Trump's in the background as the pilot. Jeff Sessions, the flight attendant, dragging Comey out of the plane.
We shouldn't laugh.
I mean,
but-
humor is humor. It is what it is. But you had him on the not hot list. One last thing that is not going to be going anywhere anytime soon. The new changes to the state school aid formula, and it's not necessarily who the winners and losers are per se. It's the timing of when the school districts found out that some were getting some more money and some were really
some were getting a lot less.
getting a lot less.
And if you know how these school committees work, and me as someone who's covered school committees in Rhode Island for about 10 years, you know that they operate in a way that every dime counts, despite
yeah.
the fact that they might be spending, in some cases like Warwick, hundreds of Cranston, over $100 million. Every dime is accounted for. So when you pull away money, it means programs, it means teachers getting laid off, janitors getting laid off, so on and so forth, but buildings not getting fixed. So it's a big deal, and it's really late in the game to be finding this out when school committees have already finalized their budget. So it's not a good situation. It's not hot.
Yeah, I talked with Tim Duffy with the Association of School Committees, was very fired up about it.
I can imagine.
Again, it was the timing. Some schools, they were looking at how it was factored in was, who was on reduced lunches and free lunches in terms of accounting for addressing students most in need. Providence is slated to get close to $4 million more in state aid because of this. Again, the argument can be made that there was, because of the new formula, showing more need in certain communities. But again, it was the timing of when schools found out about this that seems to be creating a little bit of havoc.
It's good for Providence because they need that money to fix some of these schools that are in disrepair. So.
Well, lots of needs to be spread around. So we'll be continuing to follow that. More hot or not issues next week. And
Thanks
hopefully we'll talk soon.
All right, we will.
Russ Moore, Go Local contributor. You'll see his column every Monday on Go Local, and on every Friday, his hot or not list as who's rising, who's falling. I know that Russ always appreciates feedback, so if you agree or disagree with him, of course, reach out to Russ, weigh in on Go Local. We appreciate your feedback as well.